And Mark. Alright people, welcome to the Dungeon Pub. This is Happy Hour, where you're gonna get all you want and more. And today we are gonna discuss a very basic topic, something that a lot of people that start out in Dungeons and Dragons are gonna want to know. Number one, keep in mind that everything that we're gonna discuss today is our view, the way that we do it, the way that we've learned to approach it, but other people might have different ideas, especially your dungeon master. So always consult with that person, give him your ideas, speak with the person who's going to run your dungeon. He might have input on what you want to do. And with that out of the way, you want to make a character. Well, good for you. That's a good thing. Obviously, you found a group. You want to play with those people. Maybe your friends or co-workers. That's irrelevant. And there's going to be that one person. He's going to be the DM. He's going to ruin your fun or be responsible for it, depending on how you want to look at it. So what is a character, and how do you get about creating this thing that you're going to be playing with? It's more than just a piece of paper, obviously. It's more than just your ideas just thrown out there. It's going to be your avatar. It's your personal key to the adventure that the DM has prepared for you. And in order to have this key open as many doors, if you want to look at it that way, it best be something that's very specific to you, very characteristic to who you are. So where do you begin? You have this character sheet that's been printed out for you. You have the books. It's good to start reading the player manual, but before you do that, before you even put your hands on the book, just recoil a little bit. Light up a cigarette if that's your thing. Just play some of your favorite music and get some inspiration going, because keep in mind that this character, maybe it's just for one run, for one single dungeon crawl. Maybe it's going to be for a magnificent campaign that your DM has prepared that's going to be going on for months. This character is going to be important, trust me. And the idea behind the creation process is that it needs to come from you. So without becoming too Freudian, who are you? Who do you want to be in this fantasy environment? Would you like to be a hero, or would you like to be a villain? Would you like to be somebody who takes advantage of the situation, or would you like to be a righteous fighter for good? That's all up to you, and this should come from your let's say specifics, the things that make you the person that you are. So let's examine those. This is something that every person should do. Usually, it doesn't have to be for D&D, but it's especially easy to do from a D&D standpoint, because D&D has a very simple system of giving you ways to quantify things like alignment, like background, even goals. And before you can get to those, you need to figure out what you want from this world, what you want from this character to be. So let's start by what characterizes you as a person. What is your work? What do you enjoy doing? What are your hobbies? Are you a bright and smiling guy, or are you a brooding person who wants to kill everyone? That's up to you. But in order to examine those things, let's examine the things that you do. What do you enjoy? Do you enjoy sports? Do you enjoy anime? Do you enjoy movies? All of those things can add up to a great character. But how, you might ask? Well, it's actually fairly simple. Dungeons and Dragons has this amazing way of taking out of you things that you enjoy and just putting them onto the table without you even realizing them, in the way that you roleplay, in the way that you conduct yourself in combat. And so sitting down and thinking about the things that you enjoy doing is going to be a great way to start the whole process off. It's great chemistry within your own mind. So if you want to go that route, just sit down and think about, what was the last thing that I enjoyed doing? Was it watching a movie? All right, you saw a movie with a bunch of friends. Which movie was that? Maybe it was Terminator. Who knows? Maybe it was a rom-com. That's not the point, though. The point is, what did you enjoy about this movie? Did you enjoy the hero ending up with the girl? Did you enjoy watching this person struggle throughout the movie to find out something about himself? All these things you can take from that experience and say, hey, I like this. I like how this played out. I want to do it myself. And Dungeons and Dragons is going to allow you to do that. But in order for that to happen, you need to have this avatar, this key. A lot of people out there who play board games also like other geeky, nerdy things like games, video games, anime, manga, just, you know, straight out comics, the Marvel universe. So those are all great starting points that you can take. Who's your favorite Marvel character? Is it Thor? You know, is it this god of thunder and lightning from the old Norse mythology? Is it Captain America? That would make for a great character. Just take somebody that you look up to, somebody who you enjoy as a character, and just try to emulate that person. Is it a manga character? Maybe you like Berserk. Hey, Guts is a great example. He's this, you know, amazing warrior fighter kind of guy, but he's also very morally ambiguous. He's got a very difficult life. Maybe you identify with that, and that's amazing. Just take that concept and just roll with what you want. But what happens when you find stuff that you don't like? Maybe you love this character, but you don't like the way that he outviews certain things in the world. Well, perfect. Just take what you like, leave all the rest behind. You can fill it with other things. Do you read books? And no, I don't mean are you college educated. No, that's not the point. The point is, if you read a lot of books, then, you know, a great majority of those books are going to have, you know, the same genre, like fantasy, for example. And if you read a lot of fantasy books, you're going to find a lot of the stereotypical characters in Dungeons and Dragons have a lot in common with a lot of the characters in those books. So personally, for example, I read a lot of fantasy, and while reading the books, I go, okay, so that guy's a rogue. You know, obviously he's a fighter. You know, that guy's a paladin, that guy's a wizard, and that's good. Do you watch a lot of blockbuster movies? You know, hey, maybe recently you saw, let's say, Lord of the Rings. You saw the whole extended, you know, trilogy. You spent 10 hours of your day. Power to you. That's great. Who did you enjoy the most? Do you more, let's say, associate with Aragorn, who's this, you know, old school ranger human guy? Do you associate with Gimli? He's this, you know, comedy dwarf fighter who's, you know, very traditional in the way that he's been brought out. Do you like Gandalf? Would you like to be the wise white wizard? Maybe, you know, maybe you're more like Galadriel, who's this old school, very ancient, wise person who's got this amazing power, but she's also bound to the world. So you kind of get the point. You just get something that you enjoy, something that, you know, at some point you've seen or listened to, and you go, hey, I really like that. I really enjoy this character. And then take that concept. You don't need to take the entire character, because, you know, hey, maybe you do. Maybe you want to make a character like, you know, Solid Snake. That's perfect. That's amazing. Take that concept and now, you know, go to the books and read all about the rules and the backgrounds and the classes. So for the sake of a trial, let's say that you really enjoy Solid Snake. All right. I mean, the game just came out. You've been playing a lot of it. It inspires you. You wanna experience, you know, this feeling outside of the game. You really enjoy the character himself. Great. So you make a character. You know, you sit down with the character sheet, and you think to yourself, what class would Solid Snake be? You know, because this is espionage, right? He's also a very capable fighter. So would he be more of a fighter type? Would he be more of a rogue, or is he some kind of a mix? So this is the next step in the process. You take this concept that you have, but then you have to put it into the Dungeons and Dragons clothing. And to do that, you need to kind of slightly play by the rules. And what I mean by that is, again, go speak with your DM and you say, hey man, look, listen, I have this great concept, but I need to, you know, put it into D&D terms. This has happened to me a lot. A lot of people come to me, they enjoy a lot of games like Bloodborne, for example, or you know, some old school fantasy game, and they say, look, I really enjoy this character. How do we turn this into D&D 5th edition character sheet? And this is where your DM is either going to be able to help you, or he's going to give you interesting ideas. He's maybe going to bend a rule or two. That's his role, after all. Let's take a few examples. Let's say that you want to make a Guts character. You really enjoy that guy. You know, he's great in the manga. He's one of my favorite, you know, types of characters in the world. And how do you do that? Well, he's obviously a fighter. Like, there's no second thought about it. He's not gonna be a rogue. He's not gonna be any sort of a caster. So he's gonna be this old school fighter guy. What is characteristic about Guts that, you know, you enjoy so much and you want to bring into the game? Well, number one, he's relentless, right? There's nothing that can stop him. He's got this drive behind him. He's just, you know, pure human emotion and rage. He's the epitome of the human being, constantly struggling but remaining alive, wanting to live, but then having so much, you know, baggage. So you take that, and obviously he's gonna be a fighter. Specifically, he's gonna be a battle master, because Guts even though he's brutal and he's powerful, he always approaches things very cerebrally, very tactically, and he's a brilliant fighter. So you need a class that can emulate that, and the Battle Master is the perfect class for that, because you have all your maneuvers, you have all those bonuses that you can put into the way that you conduct combat, and you have, you know, the know your enemy feat, so that kind of plays into everything. So there you go, now you have a class. What would be your background? Well, obviously you're gonna be a soldier, and one of the characteristics of the soldier is that there is the mercenary specification, that you can be a soldier, but you don't have to be a castle guard or part of some, you know, country's standard military. You can be a merc, and that ties in perfectly. So, you know, you don't have to divert too much away from what the game is already giving you. And then what you need is a race and some specifics. Well, obviously Guts is a human, and that plays perfectly into what we want to build, because, you know, because as a DM I allow the variant human, and that's amazing. You can take a single feat to begin with. Obviously it's gonna have to do with heavy weapon fighting, because Guts, you know, he's just not Guts without the giant sword. So you're gonna take, you know, heavy weapon mastery, and there you go. And now you have brought this character into the game. But what's left? Well, the background has the personality traits and the ideals and the bonds and stuff like that. Don't be afraid to break away from those things. A good DM will tell you, hey, you have these things to work with, we can modify them to kind of fit what you want to do, or we can create new specific ones. Like that's quite all right. And in order to create Guts, there's a lot of what his personality is all about, like the fact that he's fearless and he's unstoppable, and, you know, he's got this dark side of him. You can take all of those things from the character book. But, you know, Guts, again, he's more of a, he's easy to transcend the manga universe and put into D&D. What happens when you take a more complex character, or rather, not more complex, but more removed from this standardized fantasy formula? We mentioned Solok Snake earlier, like the guy from the first game, the guy that everybody fell in love with. He's a little bit more difficult because you can't really put him into that stereotype. But let's say that, you know, for the sake of it, Metal Gear Solid is a tactical espionage game. So obviously he's gonna be a rogue. He's not gonna be this guy who's gonna go out there guns blazing, you know, minigun in hand. He's not a fighter. He's also not political. He's not religious. He's not in any way bound by those things. So he's obviously gonna be a rogue. You take that concept and then you go looking for the other things. Obviously he's gonna be human, but here we have other ways that we can do this, because there are more races in the book, and you don't have to tie yourself to what's already there. Again, like I said, feel free to break the mold and shape this character however you feel like it. So you could make it so that Solid Snake is actually a wood elf. Hey man, why not? Like, wood elves are great for that kind of stuff. They have natural camouflage. They're very good with sneaking. They make for great rangers. So there you go. What about a background? Well, obviously there are two choices here that you can take. One is the soldier, again, because Solid Snake is, after all, a military person. But then you can also take the spy background from the criminal subset, and, you know, that can give you better flexibility. And then, you know, no spoilers, but for those who've played the game, you're gonna find a lot of personality traits, bonds, and ideals in there that you can kind of go, yeah, that's Solid Snake, that's the one. And there you go. Now you have this other character who completely doesn't have anything to do with a fantasy role-playing setting into the game. A lot of people are gonna say, okay, so you've done that, but that doesn't fit. Well, here's the thing. The character in the game, your avatar, has two components. We're talking removed from the character sheet. That's something else. That's just his physical representation on the table. The two components that you need to pay attention to are, number one, the concept of the character, and number two, yourself, because you will be the driving engine behind this character. Otherwise, he's just, you know, some scribblings with a pencil on a piece of paper. So what do I mean by that? Well, number one, you are going to be his voice. You're going to be the driving idea behind this concept. Whatever the character does, he's going to do it because of your intentions. And this is where the role-playing part of the, you know, role-playing game kind of comes into focus, because it's all up to you. You can play the character however you see fit, whatever you view as this person's alignment or ideal or a personality is going to come from you, right? So no matter how much you want to, embody, let's say, Guts or Solok Snake, ultimately you're going to be playing your rendition of the character. To those people who are able to roleplay to such an extent that they can literally bring the character into the game and they can very closely follow what that character would do and how he would act in a certain situation, power to you. That's an amazing ability, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of skill to do. But keep in mind that every person out there has this one character that's really, really close to their heart. It could be anything from even a song or a book or a movie or a manga, and every person has that one character. From what I've known, from what I've seen, usually the first character that people make is the one that has most has caught their attention. For me, way back when, it was something out of an anime, because I was really into that back then, and I just took that character, brought it into the game. For other people, it's something else. Mostly, another interesting tidbit is that people used to mix and match. They like to do that. They like to take concepts out of different characters that they like and then just put them into one vessel. And that's the other way of doing things. For all of you who this is your first character, what I just said was meant to kind of unlock your inner potential, inner nerd. Just go out there and nerd out. Take your character, take what you love and put it into the game. But then, you're going to play this campaign, and maybe throughout the game you're going to say, hey, this is very fun. I love doing this. Let's make a new one. Let's do something now that I've seen how it plays out, now that I know how it works. Let's make another character. And that's perfectly fine, again. But now you have this additional knowledge, and the second rendition of character creation for most people out there is actually better, because now you kind of know what you're doing, you kind of know how to approach the situation. And what people like to do is, that previous thing that I said, they just take certain things out of certain characters and they just put it into one avatar, one vessel that just encompasses all of their preferred traits, preferred abilities, and then people really start to have a lot of fun. The first character is very special, and most of the people that are going to play D&D with you, most of you that are going to make characters for the first time, you're never going to forget that first character. You're going to take that character sheet one day, it's going to be all crumpled up and full with stuff that you've taken out and then put back in. It's going to have a ballpoint and a pencil and a lot of pictures attached to it, and you're going to say, hey man, that was amazing, let's do it again. That second character, that's when the real D&D starts to happen, because now people really unlock what's inside them and how they approach the game. We have this with one of our players. She created this character for the first time. I was there when she rolled the dice. I was there when she came up with the concepts. I helped out, and that character has been in the campaigns for a year. That character has changed so much throughout the playing time that it no longer looks like what she created in the beginning, and that's fine. That's actually exactly what you're looking for as a player and as a DM, because if you just make a character that never changes, then at some point it's going to get boring, and when it gets boring, people stop being creative. They stop being funny. They start to feel kind of lost, forgotten in a way. But when characters keep changing, that means that the person who's playing the character also changes, and that's the amazing thing of those of that coalition of things that I mentioned previously. The character is not just a piece of paper, it's you. But because you can't physically get into the game, you need this avatar, and that avatar is going to be connected to you, but it's also going to be connected to the game, and that is your link with the adventure that you're playing. So the more that the adventure goes on, the more things are going to change, and that's going to reverberate throughout that link leading all the way back to you, and it's going to start making you think, I'm doing this with this character has this worldview, but is it really my worldview, or is it just the characters? This is something that a lot of DMs and a lot of players actually come in contact when playing D&D. Of course, if we're not talking about just doing a dungeon crawl and rolling some dice, we're talking about a large campaign. A lot of guys getting together every weekend, throwing some dice, but also a lot of storytelling, a lot of role playing. And at some point you start to figure out that, hey, you know, I'm changing the way that this character plays, but it's also kind of changing me in a way. And we're gonna get to that in next videos. It's a very big topic, but for now, in order for this to happen, for this magical moment in D&D when you're sitting there going, you know, this character that I've made is just, it's so much like me, but not really. So, you know, should I be more like him? That's, you know, again, psychological. In order for that to happen, you need to have very pure intentions. And let's sum up a few advice that we've been discussing so far. Number one, get inspired, because that's just how it works. Just sit down and listen to some of your favorite music. Like, you know, what do you like? Like rap? You like, you know, heavy metal? That's fine. Just sit down, listen to some music, and just see where your thoughts take you. Or just, you know, rewatch some of your favorite movies or anime. You know, read some of your manga, or maybe you already have a concept. That's even better. Just revisit those moments and see where your thoughts take you, because that is the purest inspiration that you're ever going to have. And then take that inspiration and make it simple. Because a lot of people I see make a very common mistake. They like to add as much as possible to this character, because they believe that the more there is into the character on the character sheet, the better the character is going to be. That's not necessarily true. To some people it is, because some people really need all of those tiny little details in order to get immersed. But mostly, simplicity actually works better, because you start playing with this guy, start playing with this character, and you're going to notice that it's not about what's on the character sheet. It's what's in your mind that really matters. And the character sheet, the character concept itself is just the key that opens up your inner thoughts and your imagination. And that's advice number two. Just make it simple, make it direct. Don't overplay what you have in your mind. Simple advice number three: don't be afraid to put what's in your mind out there. Go speak to people. Go speak with your DM. Discuss things. Like you've just done this combat, and you know, instead of just, you know, keep going forward and seeing what's going to happen in the adventure, take a little break. Like take a 10-minute break. Go, you know, ask the DM, hey man, you know, look what just happened. You know, I did this. You know, how is this going to play out? Is this going to affect my alignment? Why? You know, what did I do in this situation? Like, you know, keep discussing things with the people around you, because Dungeons and Dragons is a social game. Yes, there's that old school joke that the nerdiest game out there still requires friends to play, and that's actually heartwarming if you think about it, because, you know, you have all these people on the table, and your character is going to be the element that interacts with those people. So take that and put it out there and say, hey, I'm this guy. I'm gonna do this because my character has this trait, and you know, I wrote this down because this is how I feel about this situation. This is how I feel about this character. Don't be afraid to show what this character is all about, because ultimately what you're doing is you're showing these people what you're all about, and I think that's amazing. You know, the way that D&D allows people to show what they have inside of them, as opposed to what they would show in a normal situation, like in a job environment, for example, is just staggeringly amazing. Quick tip number 4: do not be concerned about the rules. And what I mean by that is, no, you cannot have, you know, a giant sword that does 40-12 damage. That's no. What you can do, however, you know, like that old meme where, no, you cannot be a one-armed pixie barbarian. That's just not gonna work. But what you can do is just sit down with your DM and say, look, I have this amazing idea, and just, you know, show him your passion and say, I want to play this character who's, you know, I took some traits out of this guy, and I took this guy's weapon, and I want to have this position, and, you know, I really like Lord of the Rings. So tell your DM, and trust me, any person who's ever sat behind the DM screen is gonna look at you in the eyes, and he's gonna silently thank you for being so into the game, and then he's gonna help you out. He's gonna tell you, okay, let's see, you know, we can make this because of this rule, and you know, I can give you this feat to begin with, but you know, I'm gonna take something away from you, because that's what a DM is supposed to do. Don't think that DMs are there just to, you know, do the mathematics and tell you how this acid trap is gonna maim you and kill your character forever. No, that's okay, maybe out there somewhere, that's what we do, but mostly the idea of a dungeon master is to allow people to act out their fantasies, and to allow them to have this world where their characters can do all the things that they want to do. So again, there you go. Just go to your DM, ask him some stuff, tell him what you want to know, you know, and that's going to work out. And quick tip number 5, when you make your character, do not get caught up into what your character is supposed to be, but rather think about what you want this character to be. What I mean by that, okay, maybe that was confusing. Let me try again. Do not just say, okay, this guy's supposed to be a badass. No, you are supposed to be a badass. This character is just an avatar. This guy's supposed to be quiet, brooding. He's this assassin guy. All right, don't just stop talking all the time and just roleplay. Okay, let me summarize this. Just roleplay the way that you see fit, but try to be honest with what you're doing with yourself. So if you want to be this amazing assassin guy who's quiet all the time and he just backstabs people, do that. Don't, have the personality of a giddy schoolgirl and a getup of an assassin, unless that's the idea. The point is, just feel free to roleplay and to act out your ideas. Yeah, you don't have to pertain to a certain way of role-playing. Every person is allowed and should be free to role-play the way they see fit. So from my point of view, like I'm sitting there behind the DM screen, I have 4 people playing on my table. One guy is gonna be the lawful good, stick in the mud paladin. He's always gonna be this goody two shoes who never does anything fun and keeps following the tenets. That's amazing. If you can have that guy on your table, go buy him a beer. Why? Because that's difficult. Even for a person who has this outlook on life, it's not easy to constantly think about the game and apply those tenets. And then you have this other guy. He's quiet. He never speaks. Like sometimes as a DM, I look at him and I go, is he really having fun or is he just here to kind of, roll some dice? That's also okay, because those are thoughts that I had previously. And then after a few weeks, the guy comes to me and says, you know what, I'm having so much fun with this D&D. Thank you so much. And I'm like, dude, you never say anything. And he looks at me and says, yeah, that's kind of the point. So again, just, don't be afraid to use Dungeons and Dragons as a medium to get what you want on the inside. If you want to be a badass, go be a badass. Don't make a badass character, make a character that fits into your idea, but then you got to go out there and be the badass. The way you speak, the way you act out, the way you react to your 1 rolls and your 20 rolls is, those are going to be the things that are important. So we're coming up to our 30-minute mark. This has been the happy hour. This is topic number 1, actually, and we're going to have a lot of those coming your way. And I hope to see your comments below. Send us your suggestions. You're going to find our email address into the description. Ask us your questions. Hey, we're here to answer.